Epsilon, The Edge of Silence. Part 2, Landing in the Nest. Narrator, Flash, the engineer. Doc's words, "We are going to the hunter," were ringing in my brain. I felt like I had just jumped out of a burning building, and the captain had ordered me back inside for his hat. I staggered back to the bridge, still catching the faint smell of burned metal and ozone. Hank stayed in the technical bay, busy with his tablet. He just patted my shoulder, trying to reassure me. "Calm down, Flash. I'm injecting you with B vitamins. If we die, at least it will be with clean blood." A heavy, sticky silence hung over the bridge. Zig sat in the pilot's chair, his red hair damp, his gaze glued to the screen. He turned to me and repeated, "Doc, I repeat, we are landing right in those orange lines. That's the area where maximum activity is being recorded. And, by the way, the shadow is there too. My scanners show its speed has dropped. It's waiting for us." Doc stood behind Zig, like a cold statue. He didn't react to the panic. Doc said, "Precisely. If it's waiting for us, we won't disappoint it. We won't hide behind hills and scratch around with shovels, Flash. If something that's smart and that powerful cuts us off from civilization, it means it wants contact. And we will give it that contact. Aurora, data on the plateau?" Aurora responded immediately. I could hear her voice slightly fluctuating due to the system glitches. "Captain, I have restored 65% of the internal network. The best landing site is Plateau A7. Solid rock, minimal concentration of toxic vapors. And it is located directly in the center of the largest cluster of orange veins. Great, right into the den," I muttered under my breath, checking the console. The main generator was working, but all external sensors were in a blind and deaf mode. I reported to Doc, "Captain, I warn you. We have no external radar. We are landing almost manually, relying on visual contact and old barometers. Our chances of crashing into a cliff, by my calculation, have increased by 75%. Doc completely ignored my calculations. Doc said, "Zig, visual piloting. We will show this planet what old school is about." The descent was nerve-wracking. The ship shook like a tin can. Zig, sweating, fought the wind gusts caused, I thought, by the electromagnetic field itself. Zig shouted, "Gravity is fluctuating. Hold on." As we broke through the lower layer of fog, we saw Plateau A7. It was a perfectly flat, round area surrounded by gigantic, glowing orange crystalline structures. And in the center of the area, Sky gasped, her voice filled with pure animal terror. "Oh God!" I saw it. It wasn't just a shadow. It was a structure. It was enormous, resembling a gigantic, multi-legged spider, but made of perfectly black, matte metal that reflected no light. It was motionless, seemingly rooted in the ground. Its segments were articulated with frightening precision, and it was the size of a small town. Zig reported, though it was unnecessary. "Target acquired. It is not moving. It is waiting for us," Doc said quietly. "Prepare for landing, Zig, and make it perfect." The landing was rough, but masterful. We sat down directly in front of the gigantic, motionless structure. After touchdown, an eerie silence fell. The only sound was the clicking of the Epsilon's cooling hull. Doc gave the order. "Look around. Sky, open the external microphone. Aurora, prepare the drop bay. Flash, prepare to descend." I felt my heart plummet. "Descend?" I protested. "Captain, this isn't just a hunter. It's a factory. It's 50 times larger than our ship. We should—" Doc said, his voice even quieter yet penetrating. "We cannot sit here. If we do not act, it will. I am going in the first group. Sky, you stay on the bridge. Hank, you are with me. Flash, you are coming. I need an engineer for analysis. I knew arguing was pointless. Doc was crazy, but there was logic to his madness. Hank silently fastened his body armor. He reported to Doc, I brought enough painkillers for the three of us, document, and a high-power stun gun. Just in case. I grabbed the spectrum analyzer, ground-penetrating radar, and my trusty multi-tool. I told him, I'm taking this. If that thing attacks, I'll at least try to short it out. I went down to the drop bay. The air was thick, smelling of ozone and something damp, mineral. Doc was already standing by the hatch, checking his standard-issue military blaster. Doc said to me, Flash, here's the rule. Don't touch anything that glows orange. Don't joke. And if I say run, you run. I nodded. Understood, Captain. Though you usually say something more ironic. Doc replied curtly, I am saving my irony for a safer place. The hatch hissed open. Warm, humid air hit us. The silence was unnatural. I immediately ran a scan and spoke into my helmet mic. Sky Doc, Hank. The surface, the scanner sees tracks here. Not mechanical. They look like an organic trail, but gigantic. We started moving slowly toward the structure. The distance was about 1 kilometer. Hank reported, Biological analysis. The vegetation here does not photosynthesize. It feeds on pure electrical energy from these crystals. It's a symbiosis, Flash. I realized. So the planet is a giant power plant. And the structure, its consumer? As we got closer to the structure, I saw its surface was covered in a network of fine, barely visible fibers that seemed to vibrate. Suddenly, about 100 meters away, I noticed something. I stopped and shouted, Hold up! Doc, to the right, near the crystal. It was a piece of metal. Dented, charred, but familiar. We walked closer. Doc knelt, picking up the fragment. Doc said, That's a stabilizer from the Helios. The previous group's ship. They made it this far. The fragment was covered in the same thin, vibrating fibers as the structure. They were slowly, but surely, growing into the metal, consuming it. Hank warned Doc. It's not just rust, document. It's absorption. The fibers act like a digestive system. They dissolve the metal. I felt the tension inside me give way to cold horror. This was a techno-organic predator. At that moment, Sky screamed over the comms. Doc! I'm detecting an anomaly on board. The seismic sensor picked something up. Beneath us? We froze. Something hummed beneath our feet. A low, familiar drone. The very one that almost drove us mad. The structure in front of us began to move. Not quickly, but smoothly. Its gigantic segmented legs slowly began to rise, and its main body tilted towards us. Its massive size was terrifying. Doc said quietly but clearly, Zig, stand by for takeoff. Sky, what's down there? Sky, breathless, answered, It's tunnels. Under the entire plateau. And they lead right under our ship. I shouted, We can't run. Our ship might be sitting on rails. The roar intensified. I looked up at the structure. 2 bright orange points ignited on its hull like weeping eyes. And they were aimed directly at us. Doc said, Flash, Hank. Run back to the ship. Now! I turned and ran like never before. Behind me, the blast of Doc's blaster cracked. I heard Hank shout, urging me to move faster. These creatures, these hunters, were closing the distance at a terrifying speed. I reached the ramp, gasping for air. I turned back. Doc and Hank were firing. And then one of the smaller hunters, ignoring the shots, lunged at Hank, and with a single strike of its segmented leg knocked the blaster out of his hand. Doc shouted, Hank! Get back! I yelled into the helmet. Zig! Take off. Zig replied, his voice filled with despair. I can't, Flash. Something is holding the landing gear. We're locked down. I watched the scene in horror. Hank was trying to reach his stun gun, and the hunter was already looming over him. Doc, reloading his blaster, looked at me. There was no irony in his eyes. There was only the command. Doc shouted, Flash, seal the hatch. Get out of here. End of part 2.